He then turns to us and grabs my hand and looks up at me and says, I now know that no, sorry, I'm getting emotional. The time that I was always waiting for was now.
Hey everyone, welcome back to LDS Mission Stories. Today in the studio, I have with me my good friend Connor. Welcome, bro.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited to chat with you about your mission and a little bit more. Connor is a longtime friend of mine and in our family. I've looked up to you basically my whole life. Some good memories with the family, and I know you have a cool story behind your mission and what that looked like for you. And so, yeah, let's just dive right in. Tell us a little bit about who Connor is and why you decided to go on a mission.
Yeah, so I'm from around here, Sandy, Utah. Noah's brothers have been my best friends, and we grew up playing sports together, and naturally Noah became like a brother to me. And
I was just the tag along dude, just trying to hang with the big
no,
kids.
yeah, very much not the case. No, Noah's always been incredibly mature and fun to hang out with, and exceeds us in everything.
Hey, we're trying,
all our little quirky hobbies. But yeah, so I'm from around here. Growing up, big into sports, tennis, skiing, that whole sort of thing. Always kind of had an idea that I wanted to go on a mission. My dad went on one. On his side of the family were, I guess, converts to the church.
Oh, cool.
So my grandma's an immigrant from England, and so not a whole long history in the church on that side. On my mom's side, they're the whole pioneer story, kind of
Nice.
original settlers in Utah, and came across the plains and everything. So two different sides of kind of our church experience. But yeah, I always wanted to go on a mission. I guess when I was getting to that age, things started to become real. Like I imagine it is for everyone that's graduating high school and is faced with that decision. Somewhere in my head, I kind of always wondered, do I want to go to a year of school? Do I want to go straight off? And I feel like just along the way, little nudges happened over time that helped me to decide like this is the time, and that it was something that I really wanted to do and became a desire that I had rather than just feeling like it was maybe an expectation or just kind of a cliche thing that you do,
Mm-hmm.
So the summer leading up to my senior year, I was lucky enough to go on a humanitarian trip to Fiji, and amazing, life-changing experience. The people there are amazing. And while I was there, just a lot of weird things that started to change and alter my paradigm started happening. Beginning of the trip, I had this nightmare scenario where the entire group, the beginning of the trip and how they have it structured is on the weekends you do something really fun, and then 5 days out of the week you go and you work hard. And in our case, we were building bathrooms for this community in Fiji. And so we're going out, the whole group's ahead, and for whatever reason, I'm the only person in Utah that gets delayed on my flight, and I don't make it to the trip in time. And so I end up arriving a few days late. I missed there's a swimming with sharks excursion that I was really excited about. There was a hike to the top of this volcano. And so I miss all that, come in kind of second quarter of things. And this next weekend, we had a great week of work, and the second weekend we're there, we're out and we're net fishing, and we're about maybe a quarter of a mile out at sea. It's one of those bays where the water just doesn't get any deeper as you go out.
Yeah.
And so we're out net fishing, and then as I'm walking out, I'm carrying one part of the net, and as I'm walking, I'm wading through the seaweed, and I step on this thing that all of a sudden starts squirming, and I kind of get freaked out, and kind of fall into the water. And I'm like, okay, that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
And next thing I knew, I felt the water around me just like some big, what I thought it was at the time was a shark or something, swam right past me, and I feel this pain go through the top of my foot. And I immediately collapse into the water, and there's this pain that I've just never felt before. And so the wind's kind of taken out of like I lose my breath, and we go in and we tell the fishermen that are way out there, hey, like I think something happened. And they look down my foot, and it started to swell all the way up to my calf.
Oh
And
my
they're like,
goodness.
oh no, we've only seen this a couple of times. You got stung by a stingray.
No way.
And yeah, so we go in, and kind of this crazy turn of events. The sky went from being like a really pretty nice day, it starts raining, and it's kind of just turning into a bummer of a day. And
Yeah.
I'm just in this excruciating pain. And we're sitting there on the beach. The fishermen just stop the catch. They're really concerned, and so they take us in. And we're in this part of Fiji that's hours away from maybe even the nearest city. So
Yeah.
my foot and my entire leg at this point is just getting swollen. It's turning purple, and the pain's getting harder. My breathing's getting a little worse. And we go into the little village, and this nice old lady lets me kind of commandeer the couch in their one, I mean, I guess just their main living room where all their family slept. And I'm laying on this couch, and she starts squeezing this ointment, and I kind of got the vibe that she was kind of like the village doctor or
Yeah.
something,
Caretaker.
and trying to squeeze out this poison. And how it works with a stingray is when they sting you, it stings you, and barbs go into the wound,
Yeah.
and as well as poison.
Yeah.
And so depending on the species. And so anyway, she's squeezing it out. It just hurts
Oh
unlike
my gosh.
anything I've ever felt. And the cool story to all this, and what really helped me, is ended up getting a blessing by these by the trip leader, and the trip dad is what they called him. And they came, they gave me a blessing, and honestly, I was just really confident that that was going to be it, and I was immediately going to feel better.
Yeah.
And they give me the blessing, and I'm still in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
and so
Dang
anyway,
it.
I'm kind of sitting there, and everyone else is getting worried. They're trying to get up. There's no cell service, so they're trying to call and get the bus back into this village so that we can get me to a hospital.
Yeah.
And the whole group is just kind of bummed. It's really lame. And I'm just sitting there in this cot all by myself in this hut, and it's raining. And I just say a little prayer, saying, I don't remember the words, but just saying, hey, if it, I don't want to lose my foot here. And they're kind of giving me that sort of idea that, it's swelling so fast, I don't know how quickly we're going to be able to get to the hospital in time. And so anyway, I go and I say this prayer, and immediately I have this prompting of I need a bucket of hot water. And so really weird. I asked the lady in the village if she could get one. All the water was cold, so she goes and puts a little bit on the stove, and I dip my foot in, and I immediately start laughing, because the second I put my foot in, my foot is like totally healed.
No way.
It was the craziest thing. And I know, and now that I've gone back and studied, like, warm water is helpful on those things.
Yeah.
But it was the craziest thing, because within minutes, this swelling and this massive purple foot, leg, this crazy injury was totally healed.
Oh my goodness.
And just throughout the trip, there were so many different experiences, whether me or someone else, that just really led me to start having my own experiences, which I feel like was really valuable, because up until that point, a lot of those things don't feel very, you hear them and maybe they feel real, but they don't feel very personal.
Yeah.
And so starting to have my own experiences, I feel like really was helpful, and started to change a lot for me.
That's so cool. And to experience, in this case, you had a priesthood blessing, you had an experience with prayer, you're starting to connect with God more as, you're growing up. And I think that's just the nature of the gospel. I talk about this quite a bit with my wife about how the gospel is most applicable once you're an adult, right? Like throughout your childhood and stuff, you start to learn the principles of what Jesus taught and why it's important to your life, but it's kind of just a training ground. You know, you're starting to develop your testimony. You have these spiritual experiences, you know, like you did, whether it's, you know, a priesthood blessing or, you know, receiving strength for certain things. And it's almost like the training ground. And then once you become an adult, where you start to make these life-changing decisions, going on a mission, going to college, career, getting married, like the gospel starts to become more applicable and more real and more practical, right? Because it's starting to affect your life more. You know, the idea of starting a family, getting married, like that's where the gospel really starts to, you know, take hold of your life. And a mission really helps you understand how the gospel works, and then it really connects whether it's establishing or it solidifies your relationship with God. Yeah. Right? And it starts with these little experiences early on. And so for you, you know, you tell this story for a reason. I assume that played a role in your development of your testimony, but what was it like deciding to go on a mission, and where did you get called to, and what were the feelings and emotions that you felt as the gospel started to become more applicable and more real for you?
Yeah, I think what that did for me in that summer in general is it really just put me in the direction of starting to prepare. And I don't think that's something that necessarily needs to be big, but I feel like having it in your mind really helps because it informs the decisions that you make your senior year, you know. Those latter years of high school are really interesting because you start to see you and your lifelong friends' paths diverge, you know. And so that year, I feel like I just really took with me that experience, and it helped me in just preparing and getting more excited, and also just, you know, sharing those things with friends. I feel like makes a big difference, and being able to have people around you that are also going in that same direction, I feel like is really helpful. But anyway, yeah, I was called to Peru, a little city called Huancayo.
Okay.
It's about 8 hours east of Lima, and it's how geographically it's these high mountain mining towns, and then also the Amazon jungle. So you have two extremes.
Is that right?
Yeah, wow. So you have two extremes where you're either in a mining town and it's freezing, and in Peru they don't have heating in the homes, you know, so you're colder when you go to bed at night than you are when you're walking around outside.
Yeah.
Or you're in the jungle and it's 100 degrees and humid. And
wow.
So, really cool, two different worlds within the mission, and yeah, no place I'd rather be than Peru.
So, that's so cool.
Yeah.
After experiencing that, which, you know, take out the people, because the people are probably great, and I'm sure that's what we'll spend most of our time talking about. But did you prefer being in the colder place or the hotter place?
Oh, for sure, the jungle. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, the jungle is awesome. I mean, what was kind of frustrating is I didn't get to the jungle until I was 22 months into the mission.
Oh, no
and
way.
It made up about what was nice is I was able to go for other assignments and positions and stuff, but I never had my own area in the jungle until my last area.
Very end.
So,
wow.
So that was kind of frustrating, but honestly, I had so many amazing experiences in those cold mining towns, and it teaches you a lot about just how people are able to endure in conditions that, I mean, are incredibly difficult. So.
Yeah, pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
Dang. Well, before we, because I want to hear some specific stories, before we hop into that, give me some advice for a kid, a boy or a girl who just got his mission call to your mission. You know, I'm sure there's other missions around the world that have these stark contrasts of different areas, but what's something that you could tell them that you wish you would have known before going?
Yeah.
Maybe question. Some more practical advice. We'll get into the more spiritual side, but
yeah, dress warm. No, I think going into anywhere without too many preconceived notations is really helpful. I think when I was assigned my first area there, I wasn't incredibly thrilled. I had buddies that were going to these super cool areas with waterfalls and incredibly green, and mine was kind of this temperate climate desert that, you
Mm,
know, there wasn't a tree in the entire city.
yeah.
And so I think it's really easy to get an idea of what something's like and kind of bring your own judgments and
Yeah.
opinions to it. But honestly, spending most of my time in those areas, I wouldn't trade them for extra time in the jungle or somewhere where I enjoyed more. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like you're placed exactly where you need to be, and a lot of times that doesn't become apparent
Yeah.
until, you know, the end or a really specific moment. So
Love that. Okay. I usually frame this question in a way you're envisioning, we're 40 or 50 years from now, and you sit down, you have your grandkids, and one of them comes up to you and says, Grandpa, what is the best story from your mission? Like uh what is a story or two that you would share with your posterity that like really hits home?
yeah, um, yeah. There's a few. I feel like one of the most impactful ones. It actually happened in my brief time in the jungle. I was in my last area, so pretty late into the mission, and I get into this area of the mission I'm really excited about, and the people are awesome, the food's amazing, the weather's great, and I have a companion that I love, so we're getting along really well. But the funny thing is, we just can't make any progress with people that we're teaching.
Hmm.
And we had a decent pool of people, and you know, it just seems like we weren't finding the people that we need to find. And so we spent a lot of time just knocking doors and trying to just start talking to everyone that we came across on the street. And I feel like we were really diligent in doing that. And a few days into it, we're knocking in this really beautiful spot in the area where we're right along this river, and we where I'm at, they have these massive Andes mountains that are just covered in trees,
Mm-hmm.
and they're so high up that, you know, it even though it's summertime, um, even though it's summertime, the sun goes down so late because the mountains are so high, and you're
Mm.
just in these tiny little valleys. And so we're knocking the street and we're having no luck. And as we keep walking, we kind of come to the end of the road, and we're thinking, okay, well, no luck. We're gonna go to the next. Well, we see along this river there's this bend, and it looks like it has this really pretty overlook point, and it felt like a National Geographic episode where
Yeah.
there's just thousands of birds.
Yeah.
And so I see this flock of birds just flying. It's unbelievable. And so I tell my companion, hey, before we go back and go find a new street, let's just go around this bend real quick. And anyway, so we're walking around this bend and we're just blown away the whole time. And anyway, it's a dirt road, and funny enough, there's actually a landfill at the end. So they're just dumping all their garbage into the river and hoping it goes away.
Yeah.
And so there's this landfill at the end, and we keep getting passed by these garbage trucks. Well, anyway, as we're going along the road, we come across this tiny, tiny cabin. It looks like a shed that you'd buy at Home Depot. And there's this older looking man that's in a rocking chair and has a wooden cane. And as we approach, you know, we just say hello. And we had woken him up from a nap.
Oh, no way.
So he was just napping, and we woke him up, and he was immediately really friendly
Wow.
and said hello back. So anyway, we walk up to him, we go across the street, and we just quickly introduce ourselves, say we're new to the area. And we start talking, and I notice that he has these deep cataracts in his eyes. And quickly it becomes apparent that he is blind. And so
Mm.
he'll kind of be turned the other way while we're talking to him. And anyway, so we realize he's blind, and we're talking, and he seems really friendly, but you know, it just it felt like we had spent our time there. And so at the very end, I made a dumb mistake and blurted out my mouth, well, hey, we'd like to give you a Book of Mormon. And I start telling him a little about the Book of Mormon, and I hand him one, and I put it in his hands, and he says, "Thank you. I don't know if you realize, but I'm blind." And so I just realized I gave a Book of Mormon to a blind person.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I'm super embarrassed, and I just tell him, we'll keep it. You may have someone that'll come, and you can give it to them, or they maybe can read something to you, and just share a short testimony of, hey, like, this book is the reason I'm out here, and this book is amazing, and I just invite you to read it, right? So anyway, we don't think much of it, and we tell him we're going to come back in a few days. It was really apparent that setting a fixed time or a day wasn't gonna work with him. I think he just slept most of the day. And
was he alone at home? Do you know if he had family members there?
The house was so small. His door was open when we walked by, and that was it. It was a quarter the size of this room. It just had a bed in it and a little countertop stove, and that was it, and his rocking chair outside. And so anyway, we left. We come back a couple of days later, and if nothing else, we just wanted to give him a friendly hi and go see the birds again.
Yeah.
And we come back, and he immediately recognizes our voices, maybe because we're both Americans.
Yeah.
Don't sound totally normal, and he gets really excited. And he tells us, "Hey, come here. And so anyway, we go and we sit down with him, and he tells us, he's like, you know that book you gave us, or you gave me? And I'm like, yeah, that's the one. Did someone come by? Were you able to read it? And he's like, no. But he's like, I would just want to talk to you about the story of Nephi. I'm like, okay, yeah, tell me about it. And so he goes and starts telling me all about Nephi and how him and his family had left Jerusalem. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, that's amazing. How'd you read that or figure that out? And he keeps going, and he cuts me off. He's like, and then King Benjamin, and starts talking about his discourse and all the things he taught there. And then he proceeds to go out and just tell me almost the entire story all the way up until the late chapters of Alma. And it had only been 3 days.
What?
And so anyway, after a certain amount of this, and he just keeps talking and getting more and more excited. And so we're going through this, and then finally we just have to cut him off. We're like, and I'll for the sake of this, I'll just refer to him as John. But in this moment, we're just like, John, we thought you were blind. And he's like, I am, but this book speaks to me. And weirdest, most beautiful story of my mission, because the skeptic in me, I just couldn't, wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
And so I start asking him, I'm like, did your daughter come visit you? He mentioned he had a daughter in the city. He's like, no. She typically comes on Sundays. I haven't seen her. And I'm like, okay, have you ever met with missionaries or talked to missionaries or heard of the Book of Mormon before? Nothing. And so I'm kind of just in disbelief. And my companion and I are just blown away. And so we have this amazing, the most spiritual conversation with him. And at the end, we ask him, hey, do you mind if we go and stop by your daughter's house? I know she lives in the city. And to give context, he's 94. So his daughter was in her 60s. Oh, my goodness. 94-year-old man. And we get her the approximate area of the city that she lives in. And we go and we just start knocking doors trying to find her, because I just couldn't wrap my head around the idea that someone didn't read this book to me. And we find his daughter, and she's like, yeah, I haven't seen my dad. I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, he stays up there. He's completely blind. He can't see at all. And I was like, is it possible, though, that he could read? And she's like, no, he hasn't been able to read in 10, 20 years.
Oh, my God.
And so we go back for a third visit a few days later, and my companion are just blown away. We don't know what to make of any of this. And so we go back, and he has more to tell us, gets even more excited. And then And this time he tells us his story. And he starts off by saying, you know, brother, hermano, I was a rich man for a portion of my life. I've been a poor man. He's like, I've built a lot of these bridges that you see across the city. I was a master engineer. And he's like, I built a lot of the churches that are around here. And then he said, I've been a pastor and I've baptized hundreds of people.
Oh my goodness.
And he's like, I've taught in churches, but he's like, he had gotten to the part in the Book of Mormon about baptism. And he says, you know what's interesting about me is he says, I've baptized hundreds of people in my life. And everyone would always ask me, well, who baptized you? And he said, I'd always have to tell them that I've never been baptized. And they'd ask why.
Yeah.
And he'd say, I just have never felt like the timing was right. And so powerful enough, and it chokes me up every time, but he then turns to us and grabs my hand and looks up at me with his, with his eyes that just have cataracts, and just looks at me and says, I now know that no, sorry, I'm getting emotional. The time that I was always waiting for was now. And so quickly thereafter, we met with his daughter. She had gone over and talked to him, and she confirmed all the details with us. And, you know, she started joining us in the lessons. He started coming to church, and just beautiful conversion story from there. And we were lucky enough before I left to be able to baptize him. And the bishop of the ward did it in the river that overlooks the entire city. It was one of the most beautiful experiences. But I think the big thing that I got out of that is, I mean, twofold. Really, even as a missionary, it's so easy to doubt and kind of have an idea of, you know, the gospel comes in these forms and in these, these kind of ways, and this is how you can expect the Spirit. And I mean, with John, that was totally not it. And then, you know, second, John was 94 years old, and God had a plan for him that entire time.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think for me, just being able to get out of the way myself and just let the Spirit and Heavenly Father just lead us to the people that, you know, He's conscious of and wants to help, and we can just be a small little instrument. That is super helpful. So anyway.
Wow, dude, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
that's like, man, that is some powerful stuff. And to be able to experience that, I mean, you share the story with the stingray, and then you share this, and it's like, you know, what a blessing to have these experiences to fall back on. You know, when that skeptic side of you comes into play, you can remember these moments and rely on them. And I think God is merciful in how He allows us to experience things like that. Yeah. You know, and there are times on your mission where, you know, similar to you and me and the way that we grow up, whether you're from Utah or have been raised in the church, you talk about your mission, you hear relatives and loved ones talk about their mission, and you look forward to it so much. And it's almost like while it's happening, things are happening so fast that you don't really take the time to really be in the moment. Yeah. You know, and be like, dude, I'm serving a mission. Like, this is the time I've been waiting for. And it really takes like these moments to kind of slap yourself in the face and be like, dude, this is like happening. Yeah. And I'm like witnessing something that is a Bible level story. You know, like the fact that you were able to find this man is insane in itself. And the fact that he was able to have this connection with God through the Book of Mormon in ways that we can only define as divine, you know, and like you said, who are we to put guidelines on God and how He operates, right? We have this expectation for how, like you said, the gospel should work and how the Spirit should speak to us. But at the end of the day, He can do what He wants. He can communicate with us however He pleases. and we need to have trust in that, especially as a missionary. It's funny to hear kind of the script flip a little bit, where usually the people that you're teaching are the ones like, I don't know about that. And you're in this situation like, dude, there's no way. Like,
Oh,
come
totally.
on. Like, you're blind. How are you able to? But like you said, it's God, right? And it's through his spirit, anything is possible. But dude, so cool. Thank you.
Thanks,
That was that's a rad story. I'd love to just keep hearing you rattle off a couple more if you're willing to share another story or two.
Yeah, totally. So what's really funny is that story in that area, I feel like I had 3 all in the course of like my last 3-4 weeks. And
Yeah.
Another one that happened around that same time. We were I guess there's 2 that come to mind. One kind of quick one that quickly comes to mind is we're in this area that they had never had American missionaries before. And it's this small, it wasn't even a branch at the time. They called it a family group. And there was a really strong, amazing family there in the jungle, and they'd host it every week on their patio. It'd be outside, and we had maybe a dozen plastic chairs that we'd go to for church. And me and my companion, we'd alternate. We had 2 kind of different areas where we would either go to this family group or we'd go to the established ward. But in Peru, they have these outdoor bar areas where, imagine, you kind of got an outdoor patio or pavilion, and then there's a bar all around it.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's about 1 p.m. in the day, and there's a single man at the bar across the street, and he sees us and starts just kind of yelling. And for anyone that hasn't been down that way, it's really rare for them to see an American and see someone that's white,
Yeah.
And so he starts yelling, "Gringo, gringo," which just means white man.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, oh, it's one of these, and he's at a bar, so I'm assuming he's just drunk. And these guys are awesome, but a lot of times, you'd end up getting kissed by a full grown man.
Yeah.
Or, you'd sometimes get punched or just kind of weird stuff. So we kind of always tried to like maintain a little bit of space. But anyway, it felt a little different this time, and this guy seems really serious, and we have an appointment. So I'm like, do we cross the road or do we just keep going? And so anyway, we kind of do like a half attempt, and we cross the road, but we don't get too close. We're like, hey, like, what's up? And he says, I've been looking for you guys everywhere. And we're thinking, well, we're the only missionaries here, so okay. And he reaches into his backpack, and mind you, he's at a bar.
Yeah.
He has a backpack on, and he reaches out of his backpack and he pulls out a Liahona magazine in Spanish. And so now it got my attention. He's like, I've been told I need to look for the 2 missionaries in white shirts and like a black name tag.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like now I'm starting to get excited. And he has a cup of alcohol, at his space, and he's like, I don't know what it is, but whenever I read this magazine, he's like, I just feel so good. And shorter story than anything else, but he ended up being baptized within a month time too. He was going through a lot with just some family difficulties, and just seeing him being able to engage with the gospel from just starting with a magazine, and then being able to, learn from the missionaries and kind of get taken a little bit farther along the path. And then when the family group came and embraced him and welcomed him, it was amazing. And just to see that change so quickly, for me at least, it was super rare to find someone that was just that prepared. And honestly, it just, we had no real part to play except for just having those 30 seconds to cross the street and just hear them out,
Wow.
And I'm 23 months in and still haven't learned the lesson of, not judging a book by its cover.
Seriously.
And then one more story that comes to mind,
Awesome.
in that same area. I'm just kind of reminiscing right now.
Yeah, it's great.
One night back up around that same time that we actually met that guy, we met this man along the side of the road, and he seemed really excited to visit with us too. And so he gave us his address. It was in an area of the mission, or in an area of our area that we really hadn't been to before. And so the appointment was set for 7:30 or 8 at night. So by this time it's totally dark.
Yeah.
And so we're searching through and mind you, we're in the jungle. There are these tall grasses. And so we're kind of just weaving through these grasses to try to find this guy's house. And they don't really have addresses there. And so we're just looking for a blue house with a black door and a red mailbox or something like that. And so we're looking, and we find the house, we knock on it, and it just does not belong to the guy we talked to. And so we're really confused. We had kind of carved out a chunk of our day just for that. And so we're a little bit bummed because he seemed like he had a lot of potential, was really excited to meet with us. And so we start walking back to, catch the last bus back to our house for the night. And as we're walking, we're going through these grasses again, and we hear someone following us in the grasses. And so I kind of get creeped out because, we hadn't been over here, and this part of the jungle too, drug trade is really big.
Oh, wow.
And so there were times we were getting, like, the buses would stop and we'd see them stow these kind of suspicious looking packages underneath, and these guys would come out from the tall grasses, stuff the bus, and then kind of like wave them on. And so there's a lot of drug trade that you come across and see just naturally in that area. Whoa. And so anyway, we're kind of getting scared because American here, not totally looking like I belong in this area of the city. And as we're walking, we notice that every time we start walking, we hear the rustling in the bushes come after us.
Terrifying.
And then as soon as we stop and look, we don't see anything. And the grasses are so high, you can't really see anyone. And so after a minute of this, I'm starting to get freaked out. And me and my companion were walking, and we finally turn back and we see it's a woman. So we're feeling a little better. And she just kind of meagerly looks at us and says, Are you guys like messengers of God or something? And really interesting because, I mean, we really were kind of some of the first missionaries at all in this region of the mission. And so we say, yeah, like, what's up? And she's like, this is going to sound really weird, but could you come to my house? My daughter is really sick. And so we're still a little bit suspicious, but we agree. And she says, yeah, it's just right up here on the corner. And so we walk up and we agree. And my companion and I both exchange glances like, okay, like, we're kind of on high alert.
Yeah.
And we walk in the house, and then we see all the lights are on, and they have all their extended family just kind of kneeling around this bed. And this girl is extremely sick. And the mother then proceeds to tell us, look, we've gone to the hospital. She's terminally ill, and they told us, she's gonna die within the week. And we're like, okay, the pressure's starting to come. And she says, the reason I found you guys is last night I had this dream of these. Oh my goodness, I keep getting emotional. She had a dream of these two men in white shirts coming and blessing her daughter. And so we hear all this, and now the pressure feels really real. And we go and we give her a blessing, and the whole family's there. And it was one of I'm kind of butchering the story too, but one of the most intense feelings of the Spirit that I'd felt in my entire mission, really in my entire life. And we're sitting there, and they just had complete faith, just like in the Bible, where the woman with blood disease goes and just tries to grab onto Jesus's garment. Same sort of faith in her, where she just unwavering believed that we could heal this girl. And amazing experience again. And unfortunately I was going home the next morning. And so the next morning I left, and never got to find out really what happened to her, and hopefully it went well, but pretty just pretty just unreal circumstances, and in that we were just in the right place that we would have never been otherwise. And so again, kind of coming back to that same theme of Heavenly Father just being aware of his children and just directing us and putting us in a path that a lot of times doesn't seem like why we were there in the first place, and it turned out to be for something even bigger. And so I mean, I guess I don't know what else much to say there, but
Yeah.
pretty just crazy experience in that same area.
Yeah.
So
wow, dude. So cool. For anyone watching or listening, Connor has shared some very powerful and impactful stories that are close to your heart and are sacred to you, right? And you're not going off rattling these stories all day, every day. These are stories and experiences that you hold dear and close to your heart, and I can tell. And I just want to say that these are real. You know, like these aren't just made up stories. Like these are things happening in the world every single day. When you have people trying to connect with God and trying to be like Jesus Christ, this is the reality of it, right? You get to witness and be a part of these divine experiences, right? And to be as a missionary, you're on the side of it where you get to see it in action, right? And obviously there's so much you get out of a mission on the receiving end, you know, and you look back on this story and there's so much you took from it, but you get to be the conduit of, you know, you get to represent Jesus Christ in a way, and you're drawing parallels to these stories in the Bible. And I had a companion on my mission who would always talk about how we worship the same God that parted the Red Sea, right? We worship the same God that performed all of these miracles through his prophets and through his servants that we read about in the Bible and in the Book of Mormon. Like that's the same God that we worship today and that we draw power from and draw strength from every single day. It's not some different God. It's not some modernized God that is limited by man's understanding, right? Like he can do the same things, and he is doing the same things. That's kind of my bottom line here, is like these things are happening every single day.
Yeah.
And so thank you for sharing those stories.
Yeah, totally. I mean, what's crazy too about all this is it sounds, you know, to an outside ear, it sounds pretty crazy and far-fetched, but what's crazy too is how many times I saw it, not just with me and my companions, but I saw it so many times throughout my mission.
Yeah.
In other companionships and even just in people in totally other parts. You know, the skeptic in me always wants to kind of play the devil's advocate and think, okay, but is there another way of explaining this?
Yeah.
But after a certain amount of time, if you see enough of these experiences that just, there really, like you said, isn't another realistic explanation other than just being divine or being something that we cannot explain, you know, that if an observable phenomena keeps happening consistently, you know, it leads you to believe that, hey, there must be something more than what maybe the world will just believe in general, you know. And I saw it so many times with other companionships and so many different stories. And I think for all the missionaries going out into the field, I think having faith that you can have these, and by no means am I the one exercising any of these experiences, but if you have faith, and if I open my mouth and just talk to people and just look to, you know, find the people that Heavenly Father wants me to find, you're going to have amazing experiences, big or small, you know? And I think that's what I get out of this is, a lot of the smaller experiences in my mission have been the biggest testimony builders too. It doesn't have to be these big unexplainable events,
Yeah.
although they help. So
Right. I love that. You made me, I was reading in Alma 32 earlier today, actually. I learned something as I was reading this, and I've read this chapter over time and time again, the seed of faith, that grows within us. But there's a few verses that talk about, it defines faith, and how it's belief in things that you cannot see, which are true, right? And you have this, I'm thinking of your story of John, right?
yeah,
This 94-year-old man who doesn't even have the agency to see, right? Like he cannot see,
yeah,
like he's blind. And so even if the things were in front of him, the evidence of God, the evidence of the truth, he would not have the ability to see it, right? And this chapter goes on. I'll just read it here. This is verse 16. It says, "Therefore, blessed are they who humble themselves without being compelled to be humble, or rather, in other words, blessed is he that believeth in the word of God, and is baptized without stubbornness of heart, yea, without being brought to know the word, or even compelled to know, before they will believe." And I thought that was such a powerful verse of, it's almost inviting us to be ignorant in some ways, to be not fully understanding of what God is trying to speak to us. He is inviting us to do something, and we are blessed to if we just do it and we don't investigate it with so much the skeptic, natural man in us. And I'm not saying it's negative or bad to have that side of us, because I think it's good to, immerse yourself in study and to see things through and to weigh out different options. And I'm definitely that way in my approach to faith and religion is I want evidence. We naturally want evidence. And this is kind of the conversation in the world today about God and religion, is we naturally want evidence. But it's so beautiful to hear these stories that you've shared, because in almost every instance, it's this idea of people believing without seeing, without hesitating to believe. And I think we can, follow the example of John and these other people that you met on your mission of just believing, like just believe. It's such a more enjoyable way to live your life, in my opinion. And I am sensitive to those who have a more analytical approach to these things, and I respect them, and I love them, and I'm that way. I'm that person a lot of the time, and that's how you have to handle certain things. But at the end of the day, it's so, it usually blesses your life when you just put God first and you let him take care of it, right? And the answers kind of fall in, and you're able to reflect on these stories and kind of put the pieces together. With hindsight, you're able to see how it would have worked. But in the moments, there isn't much of an explanation. And sometimes that's okay to just not have an explanation. Just say, God was in charge of this, and he did his thing, and I was lucky to be there.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, that's really good.
Well, I don't want to take too much more time. I'd love to kind of wrap up with your testimony, but I want to make sure if there's any other stories or insights that you might have in the queue that you maybe want to share. I want to give you the time to do that.
Yeah, I don't have a lot. I think, I have a little sister on a mission right now. My siblings have gone. I think for anyone that's on the fence, I think, give it a lot of thought. And honestly, it was the best thing for me. And so I couldn't recommend going on a mission enough. And even after, I think it's been 7 years or so since I've been home, I think there's really just nothing that you can do that will grow you more as a person, or especially in your testimony, but Yeah. I mean, every good thing in my life, and I know you guys all hear this a lot. Every good thing in my life really does stem from, those 24 months of really pushing yourself and going outside your comfort zone and trying to be selfless. Because if nothing else, at the end of the day, that's what you're doing. You're just trying to help people. And so there were so many days where we didn't teach a single thing, and we would just help people in the farms. We would help people carry bricks up their stairs. We would, you know, spend some days just knocking doors and having zero results. But at the end of the day, if you can just bring a smile to someone and help make their day a little better, I think just that small seed can do a lot. And so,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well said, man. Connor, you're the man. Thank you so much for sharing all these awesome stories and coming on today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, dude, this is sweet. Well, this has been Connor serving in the Peru Huancayo mission. Thank you all for watching or listening, and we will catch you on the next episode. Peace.